So let us start with the first presentation. So we have with us Bernhard Strohmayer, Head of Renewable Energy with BNE, and he will talk about best practice for solar parks based on a concept actually they have developed, and which is very interesting and a good template to look at. Bernhard, the floor is yours.
Yes, hello, nice to meet you all and giving me the opportunity for a keynote. I firstly start my presentation, and I hope you see it in full screen. Yeah. Okay. I have the opportunity to hold a keynote on best practice for solar parks with a bit focus on Germany. Why I think, or we think, it's fitting to this event, because it's about sustainability in the planning and permitting process, with a bit focus on the German market. But in my presentation, I will focus on the why and how we did it. And I think this might be interesting for you. Few sayings. What do you see? You see the best practice for solar parks, a voluntary commitment to improve and ensure public acceptance for the expansion of solar parks. The committees are companies in Germany, and they use these logo, the gute Planung, good planning, to show that they are improving their planning and permitting processes. Quick words to me and my background. Bernhard Strohmayer, I'm head of renewable energy at the German Energy Market Associate, Energy Market Innovators Association. We focus on competition in energy markets, and a progressive PV approach and policies for progressive PV in Germany. And we think with this voluntary commitment, we did a step in front of the politics. Yeah, and I show you that what I mean. First, we started with our commitment in 2020. There were not that good PV goals in Germany, but we started anyway, because we were seeing there will be a big ramp up, especially of ground-mounted solar. And we did this voluntary commitment to address these issues. Then better policies came into place, better goals came into place. 2023 with the EEG, there were a goal of 215 gigawatts at 2030, with a share of about 50% ground mounted on new installations. That calculates to about 77 gigawatts. With a perspective of 2023, and this means in 7 years about 70,500 hectares new area is needed for this expansion. And there are bigger goals for 2040. It's the 400 gigawatt goal, which means 200 additional gigawatts of solar parks are needed, and we need these areas, we need the nature compatibility and the acceptance. So we are ready to go, but we are also aware of this responsibility. And with the new goals, we have to do an update. I will talk later why we had to do this update, because it's actually showing that even these voluntary commitments do work on a level of sustainability in planning and in the policies. So the commitment is separated into all areas of planning and permitting. We identified 5 areas. I walk you through that. These are the chapters of the commitment to. First, the local communities, administration, and the local people. Yeah. Second, the farmers, the agricultural sector, and the agricultural context of ground-mounted PV. Then land use and integration into landscape, and how can and should look a solar park. The biggest part, because it was the nucleus of this commitment, increasing biodiversity in solar parks, and drafting a picture of biodiversity, PV, and last but not least, the planning process itself, the implementation of the setup and the best-in-class approach in technology as well, with battery storage and things like that. Yeah. So what my aims and what's my goal of this presentation? I want to talk with you about why is this planning approach useful in the German market, and a bit what is the context. But I will focus more about the usefulness of this approach, because in Germany the local municipalities are elected every 4 to 6 years, and these are not experts in planning. And so they decide about big projects in rural areas. Sometimes the biggest decisions they have to make are solar power plants or wind farms. And we will help them, we will help everyone who is involved in the planning process with our approach of this commitment. So here's a first peek into some of the topics of the commitment. We did 5 chapters with A-B structure to reference it, and in the first chapter there are obligations of local to local communities, the administration, and the local people. And I selected some measures with which might be interesting. Our approach is a mix of explaining things in the planning process, in the permitting process, and of committing things that the companies who sign the good planning approach will do. So the first one is comprehensive and early information. Yeah. And information about the planning steps and the economic principles as well, like it's if it's a PPA solar park, or it's a subsidized solar park, or what should the park look like, and how are the participation opportunities in direct or indirect. Yeah. The second is that the companies commit to the to give financial benefit to the municipality within the legal framework. And this shows why even that these voluntary approaches can be very helpful. Yeah. We achieved in 2020, we said we need a legal, secure way to give financial benefits to the local municipalities, because every time they want them, and we cannot legally secure do that. So energy politics changed, and in Germany it's possible to give such benefits, 0.2 cents per kilowatt hour, to the municipality in a legal, secure manner. Yeah, so we had to change our commitment, and said now, yeah, we commit to that. It's a part of good planning that the local municipalities, the local people benefit from it. Yeah. Another part, a bigger step to the nucleus of our good planning approach, is increasing biodiversity in solar parks, because we saw that acceptance is sometimes difficult for solar parks, but not that bad. And we really want to avoid a conflict with the environmental organizations, which led to which can be easily avoided with a biodiversity approach in solar parks. So we committed to increasing the biodiversity in these solar park plants, and the approach is to manage them extensively in a way that promotes biodiversity, to use no toxins or fertilizers, to use native seeds, natural greening, and things you have to do anyway with a mix of communication and commitment. Yeah, but some of these measures are really helping in the insurance of acceptance for the expansion of ground-mounted solar in Germany. Yeah, other measures are improve habitats of insects, because there is a clear pathway. First, in a solar park, you build good habitats for insects. They are food for birds and bats, and then come the mammals, and then come a sustainable biodiversity ecosystem without being a by law protected biotope. Why is that important? Because the landowners do not want to have a biotope forever created by a solar park, but a biodiversity solar park is a fine thing, and we are working on improving acceptance in the agricultural sector for this approach, and because it's easy. Yeah, and it helps with the German mechanism of intervention balancing. As when you put up a solar park, you have to balance the intervention, and this also needs area, and these are typical other areas than the solar park. And with our approach, we reduce the total amount of area needed for solar parks and build good solar parks on the way. Yeah. The next is we advise to use project specific goals, and we talked about manipulating or planning the degree of sunlight between the individual module rows, because then we can increase biodiversity and can achieve these mechanisms to reduce these intervention balancing areas where they're needed. Yeah. Here a small teaser. We are working currently on a very broad study of biodiversity in ground-mounted solar systems in Germany, which will be released in early 2025. And this approach will strengthen with this study, we think, but because we're organizing the data for it. Yeah. The next is that we communicate that you can do more in a bigger solar park actually for biodiversity, because you can build different habitat types, and it's a real opportunity to choose this approach, because you have to explain those things first. And another example is it's typical that in the permitting process you're getting you do have to monitor the nature. We advise that monitoring should be targeted and should benefit for real questions. And we think a good planning is yeah, a sustainable approach for that. The last one, it's the thing we are currently working on a policy side too, is the extensive management of solar park areas, like extensive mowing and extensive area maintenance, because it's the key part for developing a biodiversity PV. And yes, someone has to mow these areas, and we think this will be farmers, or and we should loosen this knot in the German regulatory framework, so we can achieve the acceptance in the agricultural sector too. The last focus of my presentation is how does these voluntary commitments actually work? And this was implemented with the update I told you. And it's about implementation, it's about the self-certification mechanisms and the testing mechanisms that we implemented, which is easy to handle and transparent for everyone who is involved. First, there's this commitment, the good planning document, and we license it. The BNE license it to individual companies in form of a license agreement, in form of terms and conditions of the usage for the logo, which you see in the upper right. And these terms and conditions say that there has to be a self-certification mechanism which is implemented in the individual companies itself. It's like the CE logo, which you see on electricity devices. Yeah, not every electricity device is certified with this logo itself, but the company has to ensure that it's compliant with this standard or this license. So the licensee is called a good planning company, and we list these companies and everything else. The terms of and conditions are public. The commitment itself is public, and we update the good planning if it's needed, if there are legal changes, and we're building up a database of good solar parks in Germany, which you can actually see that the planning has changed according to this commitment. And we want to create a database of monitoring results. And a new thing which is not ready yet is to grant verifiable PV projects that are planned in line with the good planning approach. So you can use it to communicate that you're a company that plans well, better than the legal framework is saying. Yeah. So that's all for today. For me, I'm looking forward to your questions.
Thanks, Bernhard. One question for me, and if there are some more in the panel, I think maybe in the chat, maybe you can answer them in a written form, and then we later have you, of course, also on the discussion panel. But one question for me, so if you, in your association, if you look at the solar companies that are mostly developers, IPPs, so off-takers in a sense, when you look at solar products, how was the process of setting this up? Because in a sense, that means there are, all of this means more cost, right? It's more hassle. It also means less revenues because you give something to the municipality. So, but if you not look actually beyond selling the product, but the internal discussion, how to set that up, how did that go?
With our approach, we achieved that the environmental associations in Germany said, yeah, this thing with the solar parks, it's a good thing. Yeah, so you reduce friction in the planning process with our approach. Yeah, it costs a bit more, but for example, this balancing of intervention of a solar park requires to secure area for the environmental compensation. When you can do that in the solar park, it's actually cheaper than you do it elsewhere. Yeah, and so it's more work, but it works fine. And with the companies, there were a handful of companies who pushed this approach. And yeah, if you say there are good solar parks, you do not have to say that you can plan a solar park not that good. Yeah, we do it good. Everything on this approach is good and fine and well thought. And so it's a bit of a pull factor too for other companies.
Okay, super. Thanks, Bernhard. Then you might want to look at the chat if there are any questions. Otherwise, we continue later on the panel. Thanks.